Hello and welcome along to the Unplugged Pods, where each week we explore absolutely everything to do with switching off in a world that's always on. I'm David, and alongside me as ever is Mr. Unplugged, Hector Hughes.
And today we're joined by James Roycroft-Davis. James is a serial founder and now the founder of the mental health startup Baseline. Hope you enjoy.
The Unplugged Pod.
James.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming along to the Unplugged Pod. Really appreciate your time, of course. Let's start by asking the big question, the toughest question. How do you unplug?
I was thinking about this on the train because you asked me to think about it today. And I actually don't have a set place that I unplug in. I unplug in certain moments now throughout the day. And I was listening to Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. I am that guy who listens to Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And I was like, this makes a ton of sense. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, please.
Fuck yeah. And I was like, okay, well, suspected ADHD, also with bipolar, how do you unplug from that? Like, it's fucking hard work. So now I'm like, well, I unplug in moments of the gym. I unplug on my daily dog walks. I unplug on my 3-minute ice baths every morning. I unplug in the sauna. And generally speaking, I don't put pressure on myself to like unplug other than when I get locked in a cabin in the woods. And that is quite a nice way to unplug, I think. So that is how I unplug. Multiple ways across the day, not putting pressure on it and just going, fuck it, see where it goes.
And talk to us about the ice bath, because that seems to have become quite a big thing for you, and you know, it seems like you've got a huge amount of benefit out of. So when did that all start, and what does that look like?
This is quite a funny story, actually. So December the 23rd last year, 2020, what was last year? 23, yeah, 22. I was down in Bournemouth with my family, and there was about 10 of us on the beach walking the dog. And I looked at the sea, and I was like, I'm going to get in. And I literally stripped off, no towel, like no preparation, nothing, stripped off to my boxers, almost naked, and got in the sea. And I shouted to my wife, time me for 3 minutes. I just stood in the sea. And my mum was like, he's lost his head. Like, I hadn't even been diagnosed with bipolar then. And so she had no idea, but she was like, fuck, what's wrong with me? My dad was horrified. So I stood and I just shut my eyes and I just started to breathe. And when I came out, I cannot tell you that feeling. I'd never done it before. And I cannot tell you that feeling of coming out and my whole body was tingling. My brain felt clear. And my fingers were burning. And that was the first time I got into any sort of cold water. Then after that, I went home, back to the house, and I bought an ice bath there and then. And it arrived about a week later. I filled it up, and I refused to get in it on the first time. And my wife was like, you've just spent 400 fucking quid on this. What are you doing? And so I'd done that classic, like Wim Hof. There's a guy on TikTok who's Jay Alderton. He's a very, very good looking, like 40-year-old man, I must admit. And he's like one of those guys who's like sets his watch, creates content like 6 o'clock, get in the ice bath. I did that the first time. I looked at it and I was like, I'm not getting in that. Fuck that. My wife did. My wife was the first person to get in it. And then from then on in, it's just been this love affair of trying to overcome the mental challenge of getting in 3, 2, 1 degree water every day. And once you get in, you breathe. It's the most unbelievable feeling. You've done it, right? And have you done it? Yeah. And I'm addicted. It's an addiction. because afterwards you feel incredible. Better than sex sometimes.
Addicted to ice baths.
Addicted in the sense that I'm not going to do it 5 times a day, but I'll do it every day. And
when did you do it?
morning. I go for my dog walk, I warm up, and then I get in it because I will never get in it first thing. I got Brass Monkey. Brass Monkey sent me an ice bath as a kind of sponsorship collaboration on content, and that water was 0.2 degree. Getting in that was the hardest thing I've done.
I went for a swim in the Hampstead Heath Lido in March last year, and it was 10 degrees, and it was fucking freezing, honestly. Oh my God.
We've got an event, 21st of January. Come along. Hampstead Heath Lido.
There we go. Mate, that'll be cold.
Lots of us going down. It's 4 degrees at the moment. It's amazing. Come down, we've got the event. So I set up a cold water club, as you do. And basically, the story goes that in February last year, I started posting, got loads of traction on LinkedIn. Loads of people reaching out going, I've just love your content, all this kind of shit.
It was because I remember it was basically you in a bin wearing a swimming hat every day. That was basically the content, wasn't it?
So this is when I had nothing to do. My startup, I'd exited my startup and it basically then failed, right? So I had nothing to do. I was sat there basically depressed going, what else do I do then? So I just literally sat in my ice bath selling sponsorship to companies and giving it to charity for weeks and trying to work out what the fuck I wanted to do in my life. And then in February, I was sat in the sauna, ironically, and I was like, at the gym, and I was like, I'm going to start a cold water community because I don't know, I want the people who've reached out to me on LinkedIn to come together. Within like a week, I had like 120 people in 15 different countries. Like people in fucking Bali and Brazil sending pictures of them in cold water going, this is great, but actually it's not really turned out the way I wanted it to do because there's no way I can monetize things in 15 different countries. I can't just sell one bloke in Brazil and go, hey, want to do an event on your own? So yeah, that is now more centralized. We've got 170 people in that community. We have monthly events in London, trying to do a few outside of London. But the cool thing about that is we've got members now in Finland and Iceland who regularly post about their like wicked stuff. Like they're like carving out ice and going into like -1 degree water. And the pictures are insane. Somebody swimming in Siberia recently. I was like, Jesus. So, yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun. And I think you should put some baths in some of your cabins or next to it. That makes tons, because that is just like so epic. So epic.
There's a guy in Finland as well who like jumps into pools of very cold water with like 2 axes.
Yeah,
yeah,
I've seen that. Yeah.
Probably not essential.
Means about like fundraising at Series A right now with him. I was like, yes, that's very apt.
You said how it feels physically, right? Talked about like your fingers and like how all those kind of physical sensations. Are there any emotional feelings there, or is the point that there aren't any because you're so connected to your body?
I mean, you've done it. Like the point is that there's fuck all going through your head other than just breathe and stay alive. That's about, you're really getting back to basics there.
What makes you keep going back though? Because I did it and I thought, wow, that was a cold, fun experience. I don't think I'll be doing that again. But to then take it to, this is something I'm addicted to, I'm going to do every day the rest of my life. You didn't say that, but that's kind of
don't put words in my
mouth. What I click. I'm a journalist, so like
don't write stories. No,
I'm addicted to ice baths.
Yeah.
Is the
said dickhead on podcast. The feeling, like the dopamine release afterwards, you get like 3x, 5x sometimes, and it's like having like low level cocaine running through your system for a few hours afterwards. Really is amazing. That's what I keep going back to. Is I also know that I like to like biohack very like mildly, not anybody who's like counting calories or like biohacking with like blood work, etc. Although I'm going for a blood test in a sec, but I know that if I do it consistently enough for a long period of time, I should see some physiological benefits. Like right now, I can't. Like, although I would say my body fat has dropped a little bit. Maybe that's going to the gym and not boozing, but I think there will be some physiological benefits. But I have no biomarkers right now to prove that. So I'm just going on Andrew Huberman.
But even if there aren't, does it matter?
No, fuck it, I like it.
Yeah, and I guess it also makes you turn up better for the rest of the day, right? It's like if you've done that really hard thing that you didn't want to do.
How long are you meditating for? Because last time we met at, where did we meet? Bond Street Station for a coffee. You were meditating for like 4 days at a time.
I was doing a lot of meditation. I do 45 minutes in the morning, and then I sometimes do half an hour in the evening. So
yeah, so it's no different, is it?
Yeah.
I don't meditate because I just struggle to know how to meditate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all these
That's
things.
something I've asked you about. How can I learn?
I think it's always crazy when people are like, I have not got time to do this. It's like, I haven't got time to sit down and meditate for 10 minutes or get a nice bar for 3 minutes. And it's like you're frittering away 12 hours a day or whatever it is. And actually, if you do this one thing, you might turn out better for all of that. So yeah, big believer in that.
I also think that bipolar was a massive turning point in my life because I very much was of the kind of opinion that I could just bumble through life and physically and mentally bumble through life and go to the gym, yeah, but other than that I could booze and I could take coke sometimes, like, you know. But bipolar's changed that because I know I now can't, and I've seen the differences when I am drinking or like have a line of coke on a night out, you know. The days after are complete carnage. And that never used to happen. And with bipolar, you really, really do. Yes, you're taking meds for it, but you also have to have this quite strict routine of wellness to look after yourself. So, for example, I am in bed by 9. I'm asleep by 9:30. Most people our age never do that. Right? I will gym once a day or at least 4 times a week, if not 5. And I will spend 2 hours in the gym. I'll lift weights, cardio. Then I'll spend an hour in the sauna. They got cold plunge at the gym. So I'm sometimes doing it twice a day. And I know that keeps me grounded. My diet is much better. I've like massively reduced my booze intake. And that I wouldn't have done if I didn't have a bipolar diagnosis. And I then looked at myself and went, I'm not just doing this for me, I'm doing this for my wife, and also I'm having a baby in 6 weeks. Like, my life is going to change dramatically, but for me to be on an even keel and to support everybody involved, mentally and physically, I need to be in a really good place all the time, or try to be.
And talk to us about bipolar, because you diagnosed fairly recently, but presumably it's something that you kind of now recognise has shown up at various points through your growing up and through your life so far.
Not growing up, actually. The last 5 years is when it's kind of reared its... I speak... So my psychiatrist is, and I don't know whether we've spoken about this, but my psychiatrist only works with entrepreneurs. That was obviously by choice, right? So I chose that. But
how do they make any money?
Yeah. It's fucking expensive. That's why I'm building baseline to try and bypass a bit of psychiatry. Yeah.
That's probably why they all these therapies are spending so much on.
Yeah, all of my money's going into that. But entrepreneurship is a big trigger.
So talk us through that. What got you into entrepreneurship? When did that all start?
I got made redundant from a startup called Streepies and thought, fuck it, I'm going to start a company because fuck you. Which is you should never do that. Like, it doesn't give you a huge amount of drive to actually succeed. And then I co-founded my first company with my mum, and you should never do that as well. So in the space of about 2 weeks, I'd done everything you shouldn't do in entrepreneurship. And then we actually built a great business. I mean, that's doing 3.5 million ARR this year. I'm always amazed by that.
Does your mum still run it?
Yeah.
Does she? Okay, fair play.
Yeah. I stepped away because I couldn't work with my mum. And then I rescued a dog in 2021 at the height of COVID. Couldn't find a dog trainer for him. And he was an 8-year-old Alaskan Malamute who is a hell of a handful, I must admit. And tried to find a dog trainer, couldn't. Thought, this is weird. I'll build it, fine. Started Luna. And 2 years later, we built a SaaS-enabled marketplace, although we really only touched upon the SaaS side, which was a big mistake. I've got so many regrets. We can go on. You'd need a whole another podcast on that. And then started to feel this, and this comes into entrepreneurship because I started to feel this. I basically built 2 companies in hypermanic episodes, and hypermanic episodes are like when you've got like, it's like being on a very, very fast train every day, but you're not on the train, and you're very, very energized all the time. I was waking up at 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'd work until 9 p.m. solidly. Wouldn't even touch the sides. Do it all again. I believed I was like Steve Jobs as well. And then there's very, very, very grandiose sense of self, which I'm not Steve Jobs. I wish I was. And then you make all these impulsive decisions along the way. And impulsivity is a big part of the condition, which is why I'm medicated for it. And financially is a big one. It's why with bipolar, a lot of the impulsivity is financial, which gets people into debt, which is why they then kill themselves. And you've got reduced life expectancy of 20 years. It's like, it's a really painful and savage illness, as I'm learning. I think I'm okay though, but I'm one of the like 0.1%, I think, where I'm very high functioning, but also I've got a real grip on the research and what this is doing to me and why. Anyway, so yeah, I built these two companies, hypermanic phases, and inevitably there is a depressive episode. And in 2020, after I left the first company, I tried to kill myself twice. And I was in this hole, this awful, brutal hole where I was like experiencing psychosis. I was on the train, like hearing shit. And it was really unpleasant. And then in 2022, the same thing happened. End of 2022, when I left Luna, I exited, took some cash away, handed over to Andy as CEO, resigned to shareholders. Basically, I was in such a deep hole that I literally couldn't function. And then over that new year, I was with all of my mates at a hotel, celebrating New Year. And at the table, I was just hearing like the same voices coming back. I just burst into tears in front of everybody, and it was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Basically. And I was like, I didn't know because I wasn't diagnosed. I just knew that there was just bad shit going on. And that really led me into the diagnosis in March, where I'd actually gone to, Janos. I'd gone to Janos's place in Austria. And after I'd had the psychosis, I basically said to Abby on the drive home from Devon, I was like, I need to get away and go and spend a few days in the Austrian mountains, I think, with Janos and just relax. So I did. I literally booked a flight then. We did an exercise there where I detailed my life on a graph. In particular, detailed the last 5 years. And this graph was like this, of the highs and lows. Like most people are like that. I was like up there. I looked at it, I just burst into tears, and I was like, this is not depression. Oh, I was misdiagnosed with depression in 2020. This isn't just depression. Like, I can't be having these insane highs and feeling like I launched in 2020. I helped Alistair Campbell launch a book on depression because I started a podcast and it did really, really well. And I know Alistair. So literally this was in a studio on TV, and I was in a hypermanic episode there because when I came back, I went into Sainsbury's and tried to literally buy the whole store, and I can't really remember it. I was with Abby, and she was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I was literally going around the whole store, putting everything in baskets. We've got to get this, got to get this, got to get. I was like, it's insane. So it's only when you do that exercise and you realize that your life is either up there, and you're having these like delusions, or you're down there and you're having psychosis and like wanting to basically kill yourself, having suicidal thoughts every single day, that I had to go and find a psychiatrist. Problem was, I then went to the GP, who basically said, no, you got depression. I was like, fuck off. Just keep having your meds, sertraline. The problem is sertraline makes bipolar worse, so it makes you go higher. So he was prescribing me more drugs, which were making me worse. All I wanted to do was stop that, go see a psychiatrist. So then he referred me to a psychiatrist who was going to take 11 months to see. And I was like, I can't keep taking meds that are making me worse. And also I need psychiatric help. And I was like, fuck it, I'll go private. Private costs a lot. It's £500 an hour, £250 for 30 minutes. But I'm very, very lucky I've got supportive parents, because they have paid for my psychiatric bill, which has probably run up to about 10 grand now. And within half an hour, he diagnosed me with type 2 bipolar affective disorder. And I was kind of like in this daze, like, what the fuck is that? And he explained the condition, etc. He prescribed me medication, which is lithium, which sounds a bit more vulgar and sinister than it is. I think my reaction to the psychiatrist was, am I going to be sucking batteries for the rest of my life? And he was like, no, it's a pill. Don't worry. And then he gave me 2 sheets of paper. My wife was there as well. And he turned around, and I turned around to her, and I was like, is this it? I've got so many questions. What? And then he was like, see you in a week. That's it for private and public psychiatric care. We'll see you in a week. And then when we go and see you, we'll talk about what's happened in the last week for 3/4 of the session. There's no data. There's no education. There's no support. There's no community. There's no predictive analysis, etc. And that's when I was like, I need to solve this. And that's when I started Baseline, because Baseline is everything that I wanted. Like a 24/7 companion where I can ask it anything. Predictive insights where I plug in my wearables, and through that LLM we can predict based on your data whether you're going to have an episode or not. And bring in the same level of analysis for my wife, who's got another app, to help them know what to do in certain situations, with a link into my psychiatrist. And that's my life story.
God. And just quickly on that, thank you very much for sharing. What's the difference between type 2 bipolar and type 1? And
Type 2 is where you have more depressive episodes. I'm more of a depressive, lovely. Type 1 is where you actually have like full-on mania. Mania typically is where you are hospitalized. Often people kill themselves because they jump off buildings. They think they can fly. They might think they're a Roman emperor, and they start walking around like a Roman emperor. Who did I speak to? I spoke to one of our users whose dad is type 1, and they woke up in the middle. They woke up one morning, and his dad had emptied the entire kitchen onto the floor, eat like all the food, plates, everything, smashed it all up, started drawing on the walls. This is while they're asleep. Started drawing on the walls like satanic writing, and then just stopped and went back to bed. And they woke up in the morning and was like, don't know what that is.
crazy. There's
Mad.
a great book for anyone interested in reading more about it, called Burn Rate, which is autobiography of a guy called Andy Dunn, who runs a company in the US called Bonobos, which is a trouser company that's sold to Walmart, but it's about his startup journey and journey with, I think, type 1 bipolar. And he would go through these kind of crazy, like 3-4 day, manic episodes where he would think he's the Messiah, just kind of walking around. And yeah, it's really frightening, but
and the worst, do you know what the
book.
crazy thing is? 1.4 million people, 1.5 million
That's
people
crazy.
in this country have this.
In this
And
country,
you wouldn't know.
Wow.
There's 60 million people. You've seen my deck. Like, there's
Diagnosed, yeah? That's the amount of people that are
Diagnosed,
diagnosed.
yeah.
So presumably... you
diagnosed. So actually 4x that.
Well,
Conservatively.
there's 1.4 million people diagnosed with bipolar
Correct.
in the UK.
In
Wow.
the UK.
That's unbelievable.
With no support or control over their journey at all. And that is what's scary about this.
Just on the like you said, you had like suicidal thoughts and went to obviously a pretty dark place there. What was it that managed to bring you back from that? Because male suicide rates in this country are so horrific, and half the reason for that is because men often do what they're saying they're going to do. And so what was there, like a moment or something?
This is weirdly a funny story. So the first time I tried to take my life was on Putney Bridge, and I'd been hearing voices on the train because I was going from my house, my parents' house in Pinner, to my wife's flat in Putney, and I started hearing things on the Met line, just around Finchley Road, and I'd convinced myself that was it. I got to go. So I went to Putney Bridge, and about a couple of days before, it was about a week before I started saying to my wife, I was like, girlfriend at the time, I was like, I'm not feeling good here. Like, I think I'm suicidal. And before that was, I sat her down and I was like, I think I've got depression. So there's a period about 6 weeks where it was just a mess. She said to me a couple of days before, when I said, look, I've got really bad suicidal thoughts, she was like, before you do anything stupid, just call me, please. So I got to Putney Bridge, and I did. I called her, and I was like, right, I'm going to jump. And she said, before you jump, just realise that the bridge isn't high enough for you to die. So you're going to be rescued by the RNLI. So if you're going to do it in a better way. And I was in floods of tears at the time. And I was like, you're right. She's like, get off the bridge. Go to the flat. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Because she worked down the road in Hammersmith. And she saved my life with that phone call. Same happened on Edgware Road platform as well, about a week later. Again, these voices started appearing. And she said, the problem is the trains aren't quick enough there to do any damage. And it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. And I don't know whether I was actually gonna do it, but it got to the stage where I was like, it was like a fetish. You dice with death. It kind of felt good. It's almost like, it's pretty much like self-harm, right? Could I have done it? Possibly. Do I think I had the balls to do it? Not sure. Maybe. But I was like, it was about, whilst I was very numb, I was like it gave me a bit of feeling to be like, I could do that. I still get suicidal thoughts now sometimes, but I'm medicated for it and I get to reason with them, and I understand it can be a part of the condition. But equally, I'm a resilient motherfucker actually now. That's what I've realised. And if I can come back from being on the edge of a bridge and, again, build another company and raise a load of money and convince investors that I'm the right man for the job when I'm not, and then do it all again, hopefully with baseline, then I think anybody can do anything.
And what do you feel the kind of journey look like? You're obviously now building a company that's about helping people with bipolar, at its core. So what do you think is possible in terms of like where people can get to with their condition?
it's very difficult to solve the supply and demand issue with psychiatric care.
What do you mean by?
Well, I mean, there's 400,000 psychiatrists to 60 million people. It's not. We've got a real supply issue on the psychiatry side. You're seeing that with the NHS. Like the amount of people who need psychiatry. And psychiatry is the only way you can actually treat this, because you have to have medication potentially. You don't have to have medication. You can have a choice, but you've got to be very, very, very religious about spotting the signs and also understanding the wellness routines to make sure that you don't have these episodes. So it's difficult to solve psychiatry. I want to empower people with bipolar and their families to self-manage the condition, have control over that, see data. That's where I see this going. If you think it's like the Whoop for bipolar, right? You've got all this data which is giving you insights about your moods, so your sleep, your heart rate, your HRV, etc. You've got all this data. Can we put it into such a platform where you can have potential predictive analysis of the condition? So I could get to a stage where, and I don't think this is far off, I think this will come about in the next year with us, where I could predict in 2 days' time that I'm going into a depressive episode, and I can do something about that. So can my wife, so can my psychiatrist. Because then if we can prevent episodes from happening and also optimize and educate the sufferer and their families on how to prevent, then it's going to mean that people don't need to be either hospitalized or they don't lose their life, and they can live better with the condition. Still work with the psychiatrist, but the psychiatrist is also informed about medication adherence, sleep patterns, mood stabilizing, what their wellness routines are, etc., etc. What kind of voice biomarkers they're using, because with our app, you speak into it, so we can detect whether you're in a hypomanic stage or depressed. Because if you're in bed, you're not going to want to fucking type, are you? Like you might, but you might speak, and we can understand that. So it's all of this, all these different data points coming into one platform, one app, one platform that also helps psychiatrists make better decisions. Because one of the big problems in bipolar as well is there's a lottery on medication. And one of the big reasons why people stop seeing psychiatrists the first time is because they have a bad reaction to medication. They don't want to go back. They don't want to go on meds. And they're like, fuck that. I'm better off just dealing with the condition. Fact is, you're not. But if we can help psychiatrists make better decisions with medication, give them data around that, you've got this really healthy picture of being able to accurately self-manage the condition in a way which isn't frightening. That's where I want to get to. And then go into other conditions, schizophrenia, clinical depression. But do I think there's a big enough business in bipolar to exit? Yeah. I mean, it's massive, massive, massive TAM. And I shouldn't be saying this on a podcast, but yeah, like I want to focus on bipolar. The team wants to focus on bipolar. There is a huge, huge fucking market. That's where I want to go.
Love it. And we spoke beforehand about an interesting dynamic where you and your co-founder both have bipolar, which obviously gives you amazing insight into this. But everything you've just spoken about, obviously, it does. How are you thinking? Do you think you need to balance that out? Like, how are you thinking to design around that?
Is a really interesting one. I think that risk in startups and investing in startups is massive. When it comes, you've got the conundrum of two founders with the same condition, which can be devastating, you have to have trust that they're looking after themselves. And I think my work, and also Matteo's work in founder mental health, comes into play here. Because we know that if we don't look after ourselves, there's no point in doing this. You might as well give the money back. So we actually have no answer to that other than we over-communicate on how we are weekly. And by over-communicating, we can support each other. If we can't support each other, we give each other space, and one of us has to pick up a bit more slack. That's basically how co-founding teams work anyway. We're just a level up, right?
Well, the good thing is, I guess you've got a product that should help with that.
Correct, exactly. And I want to use, I'm literally building, there is no better way to build a company, I don't think, than you're using your product because it's solving your problem.
Oh, that's exactly where Unplugged came from, for
Yeah.
sure. How quickly do you think you can have something usable?
So we started the business in August. We launched a WhatsApp bot in September. I say bot is an awful word. It's not a fucking WhatsApp bot. It's a WhatsApp companion. Built on a very low-level bipolar LLM. You've seen the deck. We have then bootstrapped an app, which we launched in the App Store, through TestFlight in 3 days. And it's very simple. We've trained a model on bipolar, which has got about 14 million data points now, which is pretty cool. Using GPT 3.5 as well. We want to get to a stage where actually the data we're harnessing is building our own LLM, which is part of the raise, with something usable in the next week. And that's quite cool. We've done this in 3.5 months. We've had about 300 people use the WhatsApp companion, and some of the conversations, like, sadly we can be privy to them because it's on WhatsApp, but also some of the case studies are amazing. We've got a doctor in Dubai using it to help patients with cyclothymia, which is a rung below bipolar. We've got a guy who used it to ascertain whether he might be bipolar, having had wrong diagnoses, and has gone through the WhatsApp companion because we've programmed the companion to also have am I bipolar like logic. And he's taken that knowledge and data. He's then rebooked a session with a psychiatrist, not through us, but with another psychiatrist, and he's got a diagnosis now. No marketing other than my pro. And that's just through WhatsApp. So we're bullish, and I think for good reason. A lot of work to be done. We've secured pilots with the leading charity in the UK. We're in conversation with a very, very big celebrity about investment and endorsement. Very well known. Who's got bipolar. We're speaking to 4 major academic institutions around the world to start to run pilots and studies. But we're going D2C, which is a bit bold and brave in the world of healthcare because everybody goes B2B. But we look at B2B and we're like, everyone's fucking in these areas. That means I've got to go and sell to the NHS. Oh, no way. People pay for this. People will pay for this. We've interviewed about 100 users, and I think the price point's about £10 a month. They pay yearly as well.
Yeah, obviously it's not the same as Whoop, but you use Whoop as a kind of comparison, which is way more than £10 a month. I guess with Whoop and other wearables and other kind of personalised healthcare, like the Zoe, and that's obviously a big trend. Things become way more personalised to the individual. People use that potentially to optimize something that's base level kind of okay. Probably your average Whoop user's probably relatively healthy and they're just trying to nudge percentages. But yours is really something a little bit different than that, right? But yeah.
Potentially way more life changing, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about like Whoop and wearables on this podcast before, and like there's utility of them, but they're also like, if I took this off tomorrow and threw it in a bin, it doesn't like, do I need to know my HRV every second? No, I don't. But yours is something that well, life saving. Right?
I don't think people need to know the HRV with bipolar, but they need to understand like the insights which all come together to form.
They just know that they're about to have an episode, right?
Yeah,
how you get to there.
Yeah, it looks like you might be in a hypermanic episode. Like
we
also can use phone data, so like how you track, like how you're flicking through your app, so you're up at 4 a.m.
Wow,
really cool. You said you're about to become a father in 6 weeks. Did I hear that right?
Petrified.
Big deep breath.
Fucking hell, terrified. I'm kind of, my wife as well is like, she's very stoic about it. Like I'm not. I'm like, this is going to change my life dramatically. I'm excited, don't get me wrong. I'm having a baby boy. Like, that's fantastic. No offense, women. But, like, I'm just terrified because I'm very, like, I love having my evenings. I like working in the evenings. Like, just doing...
That's very natural. Like,
are you a father?
I'm not, no.
Oh, right.
But my friends and family that are,
right,
say the exact, that's all very, very, like, textbook.
Yeah. And do you know what a conversation I had with... Do you know Daniel Sorko?
I don't know.
Okay. He runs Shipshape VC. And he's just become a father. And I'm like, we're going to have a call about it. Like, I don't want to, like... we'll have calls with other dads to see how they're... Like, no. But I was thinking, we should create a community of startup founders who are dads, because I think it's quite lonely, especially in this game. Like, oh my god, it's hard enough being a founder, then being a dad as well as being a founder. What I'm told is that it changes your life, obviously for the better, and it is the most amazing thing anybody ever does. What nobody's told me, or nobody's been genuinely honest about how shit it is, and I'm waiting for that to come, because
I've had that pretty front lines. My co-founder Ben has a child who's just turned 1, and
wow,
he was just like, man, it's fucking tough. So he's had a tough year, but he's in a really good place now, and he's actually like super excited for the next one now. And
they're having another one.
They're not expecting yet.
Even the big spoiler on the Unplugged.
The other day he told me he wants to get
shagging
to 5 or 6
cabins.
so
Yeah,
he wants to start. He wants to start knocking them out. But
does he? Wow.
But it really, like you realise it is tough. But it's anyone I've spoken to who's a parent, also shout out to all the mothers out there.
Yes, exactly.
One-sided. Say that actually, like I remember
dads have Unplugged.
One guy said to me that. Nature has a really good way of like compensating for that, which is like the rush, the kind of the purpose, the fulfillment that it gives you just makes up for the shit night's sleep you just had. So it's interesting, isn't it? Like you look from the outside, like, oh God, I couldn't do that. But
to like the question is, are you more? You must be so excited, and the answer is no, I'm not. And everybody's like, you what? Are you all right? And I'm like, but I don't feel that yet. Like.
Because I don't. Sorry to interject, but I think mothers, they're already a mother, right? They're carrying the baby. Whereas, like,
interesting. My wife, when I say, "Do you feel like a mother?" She's like, "No, this just thing in me is annoying. I want it out." And I'm like, "That sounds like a tooth." But she's starting to feel very, very different, but I don't. I can't relate, and I think that's been. I've actually found it quite difficult because I as you know. Like, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm pretty honest. pretty honest most of the time.
Anyone who's made it this far in the episode probably knows that.
I'm pretty honest most of the time, and like, I'll just say it how it is. And my reaction is often some people are like, "Oh God, he's not excited about his kid. That's a red flag." I'm like, well, I'm just not. It's not got the sperm tingling in me, like.
Well, I think that's very, like, I wouldn't be too hard on yourself there. Like, I think
no.
Like, I know you.
I'm actually like wishing it come now.
Sure.
So I just want to get it done and get into that mode where I know that anecdotally I know that once he's born, there's a complete switch. It's just you idolize this baby, and you feel this range of extraordinary emotions which drive you day in, day out. I'm yet to feel that. I am excited for that, actually. That is the one thing I'm excited for, that click. I hope it comes, otherwise I'm fucked.
What you said, Hector, though, is spot on. I think about the adrenaline. This is three non-parents, talking about parenting.
Any parents? Oh yeah, no.
But yeah, I think from what I've heard, like the adrenaline thing's massive. Like a mate of mine said, he genuinely slept 2 hours for the first 3 months, and somehow he was still like okay. Like he was okay. And this is a completely different point. But I don't know if this is right up your street, Hector. I don't know whether you read that article about the Uruguayan rugby team that crashed in the Andes in like the 70s or 80s. They made a film out of it.
Oh, are you a rugby fan?
No, I'm not.
Oh, I'm a rugby fan. that was really niche.
Loads of them died, and the ones that stayed ate the dead bodies, and then they trekked for days and survived. And one of the main takeaways from it was just like, you have absolutely no idea the depth of adrenaline that will keep you
right. I was wondering where that was going. Because we're going to cannibalism. We're going to cannibalism quite quickly there.
The question I was going to ask also is, how do you think your mental health journey has kind of readied you for being a dad?
That's a really great question. You are actually paid to ask them as well, aren't you? As a journalist.
Not on this podcast yet, but
how has it's given me an understanding that I have to prepare much more than I think other people do. With bipolar, we're already speaking to my psychiatrist about what this means and how we potentially counteract what episodes could be on the horizon through lack of sleep, adrenaline. These are all big triggers for episodes, mostly hypermanic. So I might start another company during that period. No, I'm joking. I won't. I'll speak to you off air about this in a sec. But I think it's allowed me to prepare more and be more conscious of what I'm going through a lot more than other people. A lot more. I can't say a lot more because I'm sure there's a lot of people who sit down and go, how's this going to make me feel? But I think through bipolar and that journey, I know that we've got to take different steps. So, for example, my wife is the most extraordinary woman because she was like, you are going to sleep in the spare room. We're going to get blackout blinds everywhere. You're going to have noise cancelling earplugs in. And I'm going to do all of the nights. And I was like, fucking hell.
We'll wait and see if that plays out.
Yeah, and so she was like, you need the sleep. Otherwise, if you were in an episode, God help us. And I'm going to then wake up at, in theory, 5:30 and take over while she gets sleep. Now, yes, to most that's just like, well, that's just night shift. Well, yes, it is, but we've had to consciously make that decision because of the condition, and it's not worth me not getting sleep, regardless of a screaming baby or whatever. We've also wondered about night nannies, but I need to raise a lot of money to afford that. So,
well, actually, I got a really good tip from a friend of mine who his partner is in childcare, and she said that au pair is the way to go. It's much cheaper than a nanny if you have a spare room, because you can have an au pair living in the house, and you basically have an extra pair of hands a third of the time for a fraction of the price. So maybe look into that one.
We're paying school fees as well from 6 months
already.
Yeah, my school fees. Yeah, no, we're going to be paying school fees from 6 months, $2,000 a month. So we're putting in nursery.
A nursery costs $2,000.
$2,000 a month. It's like a fucking hotel though. I've never seen anything like it. But 8 till 6, 5 days a week.
You got that lined up quickly.
Yeah. That was one of the things. She was like, I'm going back to work pretty quickly. She's only got 3 months maternity leave, and she was like, I'm going to lose my hair.
Yeah, well, big shout out to Abby. I mean, you mentioned a few things on this podcast that she's
epic,
like a hero,
and she knows that I would not be here without her today, and she continues to. Whatever she sees in me, I'd like to know.
We all would, James.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everyone fucking says that. We go, God, you're a turd of a man.
Can we finish by talking about dogs?
Yeah.
You love your dogs, man.
I love my dogs.
You mentioned it in the Unplugged, in one of the ways you unplug, right?
Yes.
What?
Why dogs?
Why such a connection with dogs for you?
Generally speaking, dogs are better than humans.
There's a big mental health point,
massive.
I think, as well, yeah.
Dogs are better than humans. They
Big statement.
They just they are.
Doesn't
But
back it up.
no.
Amazing.
They love you unconditionally, and that is something which, when Willow died in July, so I had 2 big Alaskan Malamutes, and now I've got 1. It's this fat, smelly thing that I rescued. When Willow died, it's like a hole. It was literally like a hole ripped out of me, because even though I'd only been with her for 2 years when we rescued her, she adored me, and other than the adoration I get from my wife occasionally, this was 24/7, and it is that feeling of unconditional love that it's very rare to get from humans. And also, dogs make you get out twice a day. I'm in woods at least once a day, and when I mean woods near our house. That, you can't underestimate how easy it is to unplug from life there. I do work while I'm walking around. Like, I'll send voice notes to people and pester them. I will just listen to a podcast, or I'll think. And I probably wouldn't do that. I wouldn't actively go to a woods every single day unless I had a dog. And so we're already looking at getting a second one. Likely rescue another one that's a little bit older, because I can't be fucked for a puppy and a baby. And then we'll get a puppy when the baby's probably about 2 or 3. Ridgeback puppy. I've always wanted one. We rescued 2 Malamutes because my wife basically said, I want a live teddy bear in the house. And so she got 2. They are lovely, but they're very, very independent. And like, even though I ran a dog training SaaS business, like, Diesel still fucks me off every day when he doesn't come back, or he looks at you, he's like, nah, I'd rather do this. But yeah, dogs, I would be in a very different space without them.
You a dog man, David?
Yeah, I love dogs, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Love dogs, yeah. Big time. So two dogs, a baby, a business, busy man.
Busy,
Nice.
yeah. 2 businesses.
2 businesses.
Of which I'll tell you about after.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Well, listen, where can everyone find you, collaborate with you, wish you health and happiness on the fatherhood journey, etc., etc.?
LinkedIn. I shitpost a lot on there. Hector and I are part of a LinkedIn group that likes each other's posts and comments on them. Yes, we are bad people. And you can find me on LinkedIn, and that's where I share my entire life story.
And more, yeah.
And
Love
more.
it. Great stuff, mate. Well, a pleasure to have you on, and
Thank
best
you
of
for
luck
having
with
me.
the
This
next
has
few
been
weeks.
awesome.
Really
Hell of a
cool.
Cause you pray never feel like this.